I have a confession to make. I just have to come clean. I refuse to identify as feminist.
What? You're a misogynist now? You hate women? Why are you against women's rights? Say it ain't so.
Shh, it's okay. You don't have to identify as feminist to be for women's rights. I think feminism is pretty much all lip service and not at all important. As polls show, people believe in equality but reject the label feminist. I am no different. And here are a few of my reasons why. I am not a feminist because I don't believe in the patriarchy, a system in which over 50% of the voters are women, and being a republic where representatives are voted in, or should be voted in, based on policies and the majority's ideology, e.g. women. It doesn't matter if you are a man in Congress. If the people voting you in are women, you are going to be making laws that women want, i.e. VAWA, and that is equal for men. How? I am not a feminist because I don't believe in rape culture. I don't believe in belittling real victims of rape and trying to couple looking at women because they are beautiful or catcalling them as equivalent by any sense of the definition of what rape actually means. I am against definition broadening. I am not a feminist because feminism perpetuates the slogan, "Teach men not to rape." That's a pretty big stereotype right there. I thought feminism was against stereotypes. If they know not all men are rapists, why even have a slogan of such a sexist nature? I am not a feminist because the vast majority believe in the wage gap. I'm sorry to tell you, the gap only exists because women are choosing to go into lesser paying jobs and specialties than men. Feminists can only do simple math in which they only average the salaries of each gender instead of looking at all variables that go into the pay gap, including average hours worked, average overtime worked, and average time off requests between the genders. Many of them will choose to only compare part-time women's work to full-time men's work. I am not a feminist because domestic violence is treated as a woman's problem, and if you look up the phrase domestic violence on any feminist website, it largely ignores that men are 50% of the victims, and largely ignores that women can be and are part of the victimizer problem. I am not a feminist because campaigns like He for She, White Ribbon, and It's on Us require only men to commit to take action against domestic violence, but only for women and girls. For a movement that believes in equality sure doesn't act like it is for equality. I am not a feminist because I do not have a divisive mentality of thinking that fat shaming is more important of a problem than skinny shaming, or that someone's gender or race play a factor in being able to have an opinion on any given subject. I am not a feminist because I don't perpetuate the ideology of innate privileges because of birth. I believe everyone has advantages and disadvantages whether you are male or female. And no, I don't believe women have more disadvantages than men simply because they are women. I am not a feminist because I don't believe women need to be raised up to men's level. I believe that was achieved long ago. What right does a man have that a woman doesn't have? I am not a feminist because when the question, what rights do men have that women don't have, is asked, they bring up problems that exist in the Middle East and third world countries, but fail to realize that those countries lack basic fundamental human rights, let alone women's rights. And feminists want to focus on the women as if that will help the men that are being outright killed in their schools or kidnapped and forced to join their military and executed if they refuse. I am not a feminist because I believe in a system where we are all innocent till proven guilty. The vast majority of feminists believe in the listen and believe mentality, creating the Duke lacrosse player situation or a University of Virginia situation where evidence isn't important at all. The screw evidence mentality feminism has. The victim said it, so it must be true. I am not a feminist because I believe in equality and believe in equal representation for both genders. Not this mentality that women have it worse, so we will focus on 90% women's issues and 10% men's issues, so often explained by feminists that men are just privileged and don't need representation. No, I don't believe women get the short end of the stick. Hard evidence does not support this ideology. I am not a feminist because of terms like toxic masculinity is used within the feminist movement, especially when the term toxic femininity doesn't even exist within the feminist vocabulary. Another, we don't hate men, we just hate it when you act like one word, I suppose. I'm not a feminist because a movement that claims not to hate men creates words like mansplaining, and manspreading, and manslamming, and other very sexist and hateful things towards men. But yet, they don't hate men. I mean, it never occurred that maybe you could politely ask a man to make some room for you to sit down if there was a problem. I'm not a feminist because science for the betterment of mankind takes a back burner to a shirt that a scientist may be wearing. I am not a feminist because feminism teaches that ethics in video game journalism is not important and turns it around and makes it about sexism towards women, making the issue that it's not about women. #Gamergate. And most of all, I am not a feminist because I don't need to be a feminist to believe in equality. I do not need a label dictating to me what I do or do not believe. I can distance myself from every radical feminist by choosing not to take on their label, while at the same time standing up for sexism against everyone and not just women and girls.